帰り。
どうした？
作った。
これをミーシャが？
教えてもらった。
Now we get to make the mushroom gratin for the absolute Chad of the season.
アノス・ボルディゴードだ。
Okay, let's be honest. There aren't a lot of good summertime anime this year, but we do have the Chad of all summertime anime. But first, a word from today's sponsor, ridge.com/chefpk. Is this you? Are you carrying one of these old, fat wallets? This is all it's good for. Do you really need to carry around all of these random things? Why do you still have a picture of your ex-girlfriend in your wallet just because you have room? Do you really need 3 Funland cards? I don't think so. What about, are you even a member? What are these business cards from? 8 years ago? This is not the bulge you're looking for. If you had thighs like All Might, you wouldn't even be able to get your wallet out. But with a Ridge wallet, you don't have that problem. All the bulges are in the right spots. This will help keep you organized with room for up to 12 cards and a little bit of cash if you really need it. My personal Ridge wallet I've been using for 3 years is the carbon fiber premium material because I just had to be a little bit extra. It has an RFID blocker, so not even All for One can steal your powers. Head over to ridge.com/chefpk to get 10% off of your order with the link below. Just make sure you have room for Rindo. Let's be honest, she's gonna find a spot in your Ridge wallet too. Now, I'm going to be using Cremini mushrooms for this, but feel free to use really whatever mushrooms you want. Just make sure they're nice and clean. After rinsing them off, I do like to slice these fairly thin, just so that way they cook up really nicely, but they still have a little bit of a bite to them. Go ahead and cut up all the mushrooms you have. Well, maybe not all. This is an excessive amount of mushrooms. I will say this. It makes a lot of gratin. But once you have them all cut up, place them into whatever container you want and set them to the side. The next thing I'm going to add is a little bit of leek. Leek with the mushroom gratin is amazing. Cut off the tops of those and save those for some stock. I like to peel back the first layer of my leeks just to reveal any dirt, and then we're going to go ahead and cut these in half before we start slicing them super thin. The reason why I like to slice my leeks super thin is not only because it allows you to clean them really well, but they start to almost cream just a little bit once you start cooking them up. Get all of your leeks into whatever container you have and fill this with water. It's going to clean them just a little bit, but also keep them nice and crisp for when we need them. Now we're going to need some thyme, garlic, shallots, and parsley. Oh, and a big old chunk of that good old Parmesan Reggiano. We're going to start off by slicing that garlic super thin. This is going to give it a really nice texture in the gratin, so just make sure they're pretty nice and thin. We're going to slice up the shallot somewhat the same way, just so that way they're about the same thickness as your garlic. Then for the parsley, we're going to make sure we chop this up really well so it incorporates itself into the gratin really well later. This is super important because we don't want that parsley stuck in our teeth. Now for the thyme. The easiest way to peel back the thyme is to grab the top of one of the stems, place your fingers in between it and slowly pull down, and you're going to start relieving the thyme stems of the thyme leaves. Go ahead and peel up all the thyme that you're using. I'm using about a tablespoon worth, but make sure you do chop this up because you don't want huge thyme leaves in here. Now for the Parmesan. I like to shred this fairly thin, not a super thick Parmesan or anything like that, but you want to make sure it's going to be enough to where when you throw it into your sauce, it instantly starts to melt. Just make sure you keep a little bit for yourself, you know? Now to actually cook the gratin, this is fairly straightforward. Go ahead and get a pan pretty smoking hot with a little bit of oil in it and drop in a handful of your mushrooms. Remember how I said those mushrooms were going to make a lot? Yeah, we're going to make an individual serving. Saute up your mushrooms until they start browning just a little bit and they have shrunk in size. Once that's happened, take a nice handful of your leeks that have been rinsed and washed and really still beautiful and drop those directly on top of your mushrooms. We're going to cook up those leeks with the mushrooms until the leeks start to soften. Once that happens, add in all of your garlic and your entire shallot. Hit this with a pinch of your thyme leaves that you have chopped up and continue to cook this until the garlic and the shallots have softened up as well. This is super important because you don't want anything that's too raw in your gratin. Season this with a good amount of black pepper and don't forget to season it with that salt because you need salt. More salt, Paul. There you go. Once you've sauteed this up to the point to where your garlic and your shallots have softened up, keeping this over a medium-high heat, we're gonna deglaze this with just a touch of sake. You can skip this part if you don't want any alcohol in it and just deglaze it with just a little bit of water or vegetable stock. Once your stock or your sake has completely reduced, this is when we're going to start adding in some heavy cream. I'm using heavy cream so that way I don't actually have to make a roux, and we're going to be using about 4 ounces worth of heavy cream. Start cooking this up until your heavy cream starts to simmer and reduce just a little bit. It's going to take about 3 to 4 minutes, and then add in your massive amount of cheese. Cook this up for another 3 to 4 minutes until it's reduced by almost half and the sauce actually starts to thicken up, and then finish it with your fresh parsley. Remember not to add in your parsley too early, otherwise it'll just start to cook out too much. Now grab yourself a small casserole dish. This one is about 6 inches in length. You don't need to butter it up or anything, there's enough fat in this, trust me. Go ahead and dump in now all of your cooked gratin. Make sure it's even as possible in this one. Ended up being the perfect amount of gratin because we do have a little bit of a lip left. Finish it off with a little bit of fresh black pepper and another pinch of salt. You can try this ahead of time before we decide to pop this in the oven. We're gonna bake this at 375 Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. After those 15 minutes, pull your gratin out and listen. Now grab yourself a little bit of breadcrumb because we're gonna give this just a touch of texture. Remember, if you're trying to have this gluten-free for whatever reason, leave out the breadcrumb and just eat it as it is, add some more cheese on top of it and you're good to go. But for that really nice crust, throw your breadcrumb on top of it, season your breadcrumbs always, pop this back into the oven at 425 or on a broil setting for about 3 to 4 minutes, and there it is, our beautiful mushroom gratin, and it is really hot. There it is, guys, the beautiful mushroom gratin from Misfit of Demon King Academy. This is Anos' favorite dish, and it's shown quite a few times throughout the anime, and I will say, it smells, I wish you could smell it. You can smell all of the beautiful herbs that are in there, the garlic and the shallot, everything is really coming through. What's great about this is that if you don't put the breadcrumb on top, this can be gluten-free because we didn't put in any flour into this, but you see how thick and rich and creamy the inside is. You don't need flour for this. You really, really don't. Oh god, it's so freaking hot though. Look at that bite. Look at that. Hot. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, but it's so good. Oh. Now, those mushrooms are delicious, and then the parsley really carries this beautiful fresh flavor to it. It's sweet from the shallots and the leeks. Everything just works so well together. It's slightly salty, creamy, a little crunchy. Look at this, I could probably eat all of this and very much regret it. Just like you shouldn't regret checking out the links below for some really, really cool merch like my brand new shirts that we have over on Teespring. Let me know if you've ever had an au gratin like this before. I've made things like this before and they're really easy to do. My name is Chef PK. Get subscribed. Remember, keep playing with your food. I think I burned my tongue just a little bit. Worth it.